Good morning. It is Thursday. We're going to do some yoga. I've got Sunny here. My name is Emanuela. And I had a request, which I absolutely love. So if you guys have anything that you want me to go over, please reach out because that gives me a little more, gives me an idea to give you guys what you need. And anyways, and I don't know what to do with it. So have it and we're going to use it today. So the yoga block is to help get into postures, more bringing the floor up to you is how they like to say it. So if we are reaching for something and you can't reach the floor, like in a balancing pose or whatever, then the block is really good for that. I also like using the block to sit on. So we're always trying to keep the spine in its most neutral position, in its long position. So let's grab the block now and I'll go over it as we go through the practice. I'm gonna just get the cat out of the way. Okay. So a lot of people have a hard time sitting on the floor, which I totally get. If you have tightness in your knees and in your hips or your ankles or your low back, you're gonna feel it. So using a block helps you to bring the floor a little more lifted. That's gonna give you a little more ease for your ankles, your knees, and your hips. You could even, and I've been in classes with students before that have had to use 2 or 3 blocks at a time for this position to help. So a lot of it just depends on how tight your hips, your knees, and your ankles are. So you can sit a little bit easier. I like to just use the 1 block. And then I also suggested to my friend that had told me she got a block, I suggested to grab another one because it is easier to use when you have 2 blocks, but we'll go over that. So coming into your seated position, so you'll notice if I don't use the block and I sit, it's very easy for my back to round. But if I use the block and I put my hip bones, like my sitting bones, right on the edge of the block, notice how that helps me to tilt the pelvis in a more neutral position. So then you'll notice I'm able to get more of a internal curve of the low back. And that, again, like I said earlier, is how you get your spine in its most strong position, is when it is in its most neutral position. So starting with that, let's sit on the block. Allow your knees to be lower than your hips. So again, that's going to take some rotation of the hip joint and some ease of the hips and knees. So let's just start here. Take your hands onto your pelvis and think about rolling your tailbone forward and rolling it back. So I'm getting some movement into the low back joints as well as the low back muscles. And then once you've done a few of those, you've got the back warmed, find the neutral position. So we don't want to be sitting the belly forward, but we don't want to be rounding the back either. Visualize you have a magnet at the top of your head and it's reaching up. Think about where your shoulder blades are and think about the back of your head being in line with your shoulder blades. A lot of times we sit with our head hanging down. I want you to use your yoga practice to really focus on lengthening through your spine and feeling that both sides of your body are equally long and strong. So let's start here. Allow your eyes to close. Bring a gentle smile. And notice around the eyes and the forehead and the cheeks, and just see if you can let go of anything extra there that you don't need to hold. A lot of times we hold tension in the forehead, not even noticing that we're doing it. And notice how your shoulders feel. Let them hang down so you're not using any muscular effort. You can now allow your hands to rest on your knees, the palms facing up. And feel how you are grounded, how you are sitting on your block. And feel the energy at the base of your spine, allowing that to easily rise up the joints of the spine. We want to be able to keep the spinal joints free so that the energy can flow easily upward. Set your intention for your practice as we bring hands together at the heart center. Allowing the eyes to close as you set for your time here. What do you want to get out of this part of your day? When other things come into the mind, just remind yourself that you have set this intention for your time. Now let's start to breathe deeper. Take your left hand onto your belly, your right hand onto your chest. As you inhale, breathe into your left hand and then carry the breath up into the right hand. And as you exhale, feeling the right hand fall and then pulling the left hand towards your spine. So you're breathing from the lower belly up into the chest and back. And then you're exhaling from the chest and back down to the belly. Feel like you can pull the sides of your body in towards your midline. Again, feel your breath move into the left hand, directing it up into the right hand, all the way up into the back. Without hunching your shoulders, feel your exhale. Squeeze your rib cage, strong abdominal wall. And again, breathing into your belly and directing it up into the chest, up into the back. And as you exhale, let's release the hands down, move the block out of the way, and close. So when we're in our table, we're solid in our foundation through the hands, through the knees. So notice here, you want to spread the fingers. A lot of times we hang on to the wrists. So I want you to press down into the palms, press down into the knuckles, and press down into the fingertips. Find your knees right underneath your hips, tops of the feet are down. Lengthen through the back as you lift your chin, lift your tailbone, open the throat, looking up. Now as we exhale, curl the tailbone down, tuck the chin in, and get lots of space in the back. Now with the inhale, we lift the chin, lift the tailbone, opening through the throat. Exhale and round in. Keep going at the pace of your breath. Noticing what area or what movement creates the most intensity. A lot of us are going to be tighter in the upper body or the lower body. It doesn't matter. It's just awareness. And then as we do these movements, we're bringing more oxygen and blood flow into those tighter areas. Let's do one more. And with your inhale, come back up to a neutral spine. Now remember what we were saying about the spine being in its neutral position. So you still have that natural low back curve, the natural curve in the back of the neck. Take your right hand to your right ear. The right elbow reaches to the right wall. As we inhale, take the right elbow to the ceiling. Look at the right wall. Exhale, the right elbow tucks underneath the left armpit. Squeeze. Two more like that. Inhale, bring it up. Feel like you're really reaching that right elbow high. Exhale, tuck it under. Feel your upper abdominal squeeze. One more. Inhale, bring it up. This time we're taking the right arm straight up to the ceiling. And as we exhale, come under. Right hand reaches under the left arm. Right shoulder and ear touch down. So we're just going to stay here. If you want, you can take your left arm up. You can also take your left hand behind your back. But notice here, I want you to keep your tailbone pointing directly back. A lot of times it'll shift over to the side. So keep your alignment strong. And next breath in, the left arm comes back up. Exhale, the left hand down. Unwind the right arm out and up. Exhale, right hand down under the shoulder, and then realign your spine. Find that neutral position. Core is strong enough that you can keep the belly pulling away from the floor. Left fingers to the left ear. Inhale, look at the left wall as you take the left elbow to the ceiling. Exhale, tuck the left elbow underneath the right armpit. Inhale, bring it back up. Push yourself out of the floor, lift the left elbow, and exhale, use your abdominal wall. Tuck the elbow in. Last one here, we're taking it up. This time we're straightening the arm to the ceiling. Pull your shoulder blades back. Exhale, the left hand comes under, and you're reaching the left arm as far away from you as you can, resting the ear down and taking the right arm up to the ceiling if you want. You can keep it down if you prefer. You can also take the hand behind your back. You can also use the hand to kind of settle where your low back is. And remember, you're trying to get the low back to point direct, or the tailbone to point directly back. Next inhale, take the right arm back up like you're trying to touch the ceiling. Reach, reach, reach. Exhale, right hand down. Unwind the left arm, out and up. Exhale, left hand comes down. Let's walk the hands forward, tuck the toes under, push strongly into your hands and lift your hips. So the legs straighten a little or a lot, depending on your hamstrings. Now let's alternate the heels lifting as the other lowers. And you're going really slow here. We're trying to open up the joints of the toes, opening up the bottoms of the feet, hamstrings, knees, opening up. And there's no rush here, so take your time. Remember, we're trying to get movement and blood flow into areas that are usually not getting it. So take your time. Notice where your body needs it and give your body what it needs. Hold to neutral, and let's walk the hand or feet to the hands. So we come to the front of the mat. Toes pointing as close to forward as comfortable to you. Actually, we can grab the block here. Let's take the block to the front of the mat. So instead of folding, and sometimes it's a lot on the hamstrings if they feel really tight, you can use your block on its highest point. And now notice here, I can do my fold without putting as much tension on the low back or hamstrings. And you can choose, you can go down to the second highest point, or all the way to the lowest point, or not at all. So that's the beauty of the block, is that you use whichever you need. Good job. Now with the next breath in, bend into your knees slightly, squeeze the backs of the legs and come up to stand. When you come up to stand, reach your arms up. Exhale, take your hands down center line, pressing your palms together. We're gonna do 2 more like that. Inhale, reach the arms up. Try to equalize the strength through your feet, palms together at the heart. As you exhale, bring it down center line. 1 more like that. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart. Take a slow breath in. As we exhale, fold. So we've been here before. You can take your hands on your block, or you can take your hands to your shins, or you can take your hands to the floor, whatever feels good. Take a deep breath in here. Now, as we exhale, bend through the knees. We're gonna take the block in between the knees. I'll just turn so you can see me. So notice here, when we have the block between the knees, that's gonna make us activate the inner thighs a little bit more. Let's take the hands back into the heart center. Pull your shoulder blades back, see if you can bend a little lower. And let's take the left elbow just to twist. Try to get the elbow close to the right knee. Come back to neutral, fingertips underneath your chin, and exhale. Keep squeezing the block as you take the left elbow towards the right knee. It doesn't need to touch. Inhale to come back up to center. Let's straighten the arms, reach, and straighten the legs. Now with the exhale, we're folding forward. Knees bend, take the block out, bend the knees as much as you need to touch the floor, and step your right foot back. Right knee comes down and start to lengthen up through your spine. So this is a low lunge, a low crescent lunge. Hands hold the left knee lightly. Take the right arm up to the ceiling and start to open up the chest. If it feels good, you can lean back a little bit with the upper body. Notice here, we don't want to hunch the shoulder. Depending on the flexibility and movement of that right hip flexor, go to what feels good to you. Take one more breath in. Exhale, the hand comes down. Right toes tuck under, lift the right knee and step the left foot back. We're holding plank. Big breath in. Exhale, just the knees come down. Hold here, don't hang your head. Inhale. Bend your elbows, let them point back as you bend, lowering the chest, lowering the hips, and coming up to Cobra. So the intention of the Cobra pose is to open up the upper back. A lot of times we're sitting at a desk or driving and the rounded back. Remember, we want to keep the upper back strong. So that's going to give more ease for the chest to stay open, for the breathing to come fuller. So let's take the elbows forward. They're going to be about 1 inch or 3 in front of your shoulders. Palms press down and push the tops of your feet down. Think about widening your toes, like you're trying to touch all 10 toenails to your mat. Now with your inhale, the gaze is forward and pull shoulder blades down. Deep breath in. Stay here for the exhale. Notice if you can relax any areas of excess. Take one more breath in. Exhale, lower the chest, take your hands under your shoulders, bend into the knees and sit back, hips towards the heels, child's pose. So for child's pose may be uncomfortable, depending on the tightness of your ankles and your hips and your back, the whole body. So you can take your block behind your knees or behind your heels and bum, and that will give you a little more support. So try that here. And then if you want, you can also use your block under your forehead. So you can rest your head or your hands and then your head on your block. And then again, you've got those 3 heights that you can choose, whatever feels best for you. Now, as we're in our child's pose, we're trying to open up the back. We're trying to open up the muscles of around the spine. Also getting a lot of lengthening in the knees, the feet. So do what feels good to you. Obviously, the deeper you bend, the more access you're going to get, but I want you to go slow so that the body isn't fighting you back. A lot of times if the body hasn't been in that position, it's going to think that it needs to protect itself, and that's when you start getting the tightening. So find a position that you're just going past where you're normally going to, and then let the body get comfortable with that. So let's take the block out if you're using it. Reach the arms forward, come back up into your table, your toes, and come back up into your downward dog. Your downward dog will get easier as you practice it. If you need to, your knees can be bent. If you need to, your shoulders can be slightly forward. But the intention is to make the body look like an upside down letter V. Arms and legs are equally straight and equally strong. Let's walk the feet to the hands, and we're coming back into that fold. So you have your block, you choose the height that works for you. Ground into your feet, squeeze the backs of the legs, and inhale up to stand, arms to the ceiling. Exhale, hands to heart. Lower belly is strong. Inhale, arms reach up. Exhale, fold forward. Take the block out of the way, bend the knees as much as you need to touch the floor, and this time the left foot goes back. Left knee comes down. Untuck the left toes. Take your hands to your right knee. Now, the higher you bring your upper body, the more intensity you're going to create on the left hip flexor. So again, do something that feels good. The right hand stays down, the left arm. And now notice here, a lot of times we start to tense or tighten through the shoulders. So see if you can keep the ease of the body as you allow the space to come in. And now make sure you're breathing. Remember that full breath we started with, in the belly, in chest. Find that while you're here. And with the next exhale, take your left hand back down, framing the right foot with the hands. Under, lift the left knee. Ground into the palms, take your time, take your right foot back. Anytime you have your hands on the ground, make sure that they're strong and engaged. Let's take the knees down, untuck the toes, chin stays forward, elbows bend back as you exhale, coming all the way down so your whole body's on the mat. Let's move back into that Sphinx pose. Elbows just a few inches in front of your shoulders. Widen your feet to the edges of your mat and push all 10 toenails down to the mat. Now visualize where your tailbone is and just slightly down towards the floor, like you're trying to point your tailbone down towards your heels. Take one more breath in and think about the crown of your head. We've got that magnet reaching up to the ceiling. Exhale, lower. Hands under shoulders, and press it back to child's pose. Now you'll notice there's a difference of your child's pose when your knees are wide and they're together. They're both good. When you have your knees together, it's going to create more of a rounding of the back. When you have your knees wide, it's going to create more of an arch of the back. Again, you can use the block as needed underneath your forehead or behind your heels. Find something that works. Child's pose is something that we use a lot in our practice because it is the neutral point. So if you need to, you just take your child's pose, come back to your breath, let your rib cage expand, let your breath calm down, and then when you're ready, moving again. Take that block out, and again, I remind you, you can always come into your child's pose whenever you need to. Let's come back up, downward dog. We've been here before, and you'll notice the more we do it, the ease you're going to create. So do what feels right for you, but make sure that we're trying to get just a little bit further in our movement. Inhale, walk your feet to your hands. Again, if you need to, you can use your block as you fold in the exhale. Inhale to stand. Make sure your knees are bent and you're using your hamstrings and glutes. Arms reach up. Exhale, hands to heart. So let's keep the block at the front of the mat. Inhale, arms up to the ceiling. Exhale, fold forward. So we've been here before. Bend your knees as much as you need to so you can touch the floor and step your right foot back. Right knee comes down. Take your block under your right hand. So you can have the block on its lowest point, on the midpoint, or on the highest point. I'll put it on the lowest point. Now the left foot right underneath the knee. And take your left arm up to the ceiling, out to the left and up. So here we're trying to get a twist of the mid and upper back. Think about pulling both of your shoulder blades down. The reason we have the block under the hand is it gives us a little more freedom. If you want to take the block out and place the hand on the mat, you'll notice it gives you a little more depth. Do what you do. One more breath in. Exhale, the hand comes down. Tuck the right toes under. We're stepping the right foot forward to meet the left. Hold here. I want to show you something else. Bending at the knees, inhale, come up to stand. Exhale, hands to heart. When you come into your standing position, I know a lot of us are used to standing with our hip hanging. This just doesn't use any muscular effort at all. So I want you to think about getting your feet grounded equally. Heel to toes are equally strong. We're not gripping with our toes, but we're allowing them to be malleable and soft. Now I want you to be aware, pelvis is square to the floor, and you're always trying to think about lengthening out through your spine so you're not rounding through the back here. So find your straight spine. When you come into your fold, keep your spine straight. So I'll show you what I see a lot of is this. So you'll notice like I'm hanging and I'm not engaging any part of my back. So what I'm asking you to do is, if you need to use your block, activate your back muscles. Pull your shoulder blades down your back. Now without using the block, see if you can keep that strength. Now, if you need to touch down, I can't reach the floor from here, but I will bend my knees. And notice now I've been able to keep my spine straight. That's the intention. So now let's take the left foot back, left knee down, and untuck the left toes. Take your block underneath your left hand. And let's go. Right arm goes out to the right and up. We're trying to pull the left hip forward. Notice the left shoulder. A lot of times it will hunch unnecessarily. So keep pulling both shoulder blades back. Left hip forward, right hip back. And then again, you can just move the block out of the way and see if you can get a little further into your position. Take a big breath in, shoulder blades down. And exhale, right hand comes down. Left toes tuck under, lift the left knee, and step your left foot forward to meet the right. Equalize the weight in your feet, bend the knees as much as you need to get your spine straight, and let's come up with that straight spine, strong glutes, arms up, and exhale, hands come to heart. Inhale, stay here and realign your feet. Remember what we talked about. We want to have equal weight through both sides. Now let's balance. Soften the left knee. I'll show you something else here. A lot of times we hang on the knee. Sometimes a lot of people are hypermobile in the knee. So I want you to be aware if that happens and you're just hanging on your knees, then you're not using any muscular effort. The ligaments around the knee are going to be stressed. So soft bend in the knees, but it's so soft that you can hardly notice it. It's just a little bit. So notice that you're actively engaging your quads and your thighs. Check in with your feet. We're always trying to create balance in the body. So notice both sides of the body are equal. Hands come to the pelvis. Remember, we want to keep the pelvis square. So now, lift the right heel. Already notice you may have dipped over, so bring that back in, get that glute strong. Turn your right knee to the right and place the right heel inside the left ankle, just above the ankle. The more you practice this, the easier it becomes. Do not be discouraged if you wobble or fall. And when you wobble and fall, that's when you learn the most. So actually be grateful for those lessons. So now, right heel can stay on the foot. Let's take the hands to the heart center. Think about pressing your palms together as much as you're pressing your right foot into your left ankle. If you want more intensity, you can start taking the heel up higher, but make sure that your alignment stays correct. It does not help you to be in your pose and you're hanging, because then you're not going to develop the strength or the balance that we are looking for in the position. Think about your tailbone pointing straight down. Your right knee out to the right as much as you can, but if you notice that you have to turn the body for that to happen, then keep your squareness of your pelvis and just move the knee as much as it will go in its own range. That right glute needs to be active to keep the knee right. The left glute needs to be active to keep the body straight. And now when you press your palms together, see if you can bring the same strength that you have in your hands into that left leg, right foot. Now again, think about the back of your head being in line with your shoulder blades. So you're not letting your head hang. Check in with your left toes. A lot of times we grip unnecessarily. Keep your toes spread. Big breath in. Good job. Exhale, right knee forward, right foot down, and find your Tadasana once again. Equal through the feet. So now we're grounding into the right foot, hands to the hips, and I'm using my hands there to kind of help remind me that I have my pelvis square to the floor. Lift the left knee, slowly turn the left knee out to the left, and then placing the foot inside the right ankle. The toes can stay down. If you want more intensity, pick the foot up. Be aware we're not hanging on that right side. Pelvis is square, point the tailbone slightly down. Think about your spine being straight and strong as if you were standing equally on both feet. And let's take the hands to the heart. Pressing the palms together, just as much as you're bringing the left foot into the right leg. The right leg is just as active as the left leg. And now find. Let the bottom of your right foot be malleable. Keep softening the bottom of the foot. Take one more big breath in. Exhale, left knee goes forward, left foot comes down. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, fold forward. So we've been here before. Remember, keep your spine straight, keeping it straight as much as you need to. Bend the knees as much as you need to keep the spine straight, and then your hands touch down. Let's come back into our downward dog. Hands, fingers are wide. Heels in line with the hip joints, or wider if that feels better for you. Now notice, don't hunch the shoulders, pull your shoulder blades down. And with the exhale, lower the hips, the knees. Come to seated. So I know that this pose is pretty intense for a lot of people. The ankles and the toes are such a tight part of the body. I use those movements a lot in the practice because easier movement of your feet is going to give you easier movement of your knees and your hips. It's going to make such a difference. So for now, if you're finding that sitting in this position is called Thunderbolt or Hero's Pose, the tops of the feet are on the mat and you may feel really uncomfortable on your ankles. So what you could do is separate your knees and take the block in between your feet. And if you have your second block, you can do the same thing. So notice here, it's lifting my hips higher so I don't have as much of a bend in the knees or a lengthening of the ankles. This is quite comfortable. You try that. If it feels pretty easy, take one block out. I can feel this one a little bit more now. And if you want to go a little more intensely, you can take the block out and then in between or on your feet. So this one's a little bit more advanced, but I'll show you. If you're sitting on your mat and you want to intensify your Thunderbolt, so you're sitting down, I can take my block behind me, and now I'm leaning onto the block. I'll use the second block underneath the head. So this is a little bit more advanced, but I'm just showing you another way that you can use your blocks. So we'll hold here for a couple breaths. Make sure that you've chosen a position that feels good for you. Never force it, especially with the knees. They're so sensitive, there's so much going on there, and once you have an injury, it's a big pain in the butt to try and wait for it to heal. So don't force anything. If you've laid back, come up, take your time, and let's come to seated. In our seated position, bring the legs to the edges of your mat. Opening up the hamstrings, take your block, you can place it in front of you, and you can lean forward. Allow your hands and head to rest on your block. You can use 2 blocks if that feels good, if you need a higher lift. Or you can also sit on your block, and that will take some of the tension out of the hamstrings. And again, if you don't need to fold, then don't. We just want to get the movement in the backs of the legs, the backs of the knees. Folding will just deepen that. So do something that works for you today. We'll stay here for a couple more breaths. I want you to really relax into the shape. And let's come up and moving on to the back. As you come back, take your feet so that they're in line with your hips, taking your block in between the knees and press the knees together. So as we do this, you can really feel the correlation of the inner thighs and the lower abdominal wall. When you pull your knees together, pressing it into the block, it will help you to engage your lower belly. Now find your low back and really push it to the floor. So I'm just gonna exaggerate. My low back is lifted. Now I'm gonna press it down. And now feel the engagement of your core to keep squeezing your block and lift your feet so that your shins are parallel to the floor. Your thighs are parallel to the walls. Press your low back down and feel the engagement of your abdominal wall. We're just gonna hold here and breathe comfortably and controlled. Keep squeezing the block with your inner thighs. No tension on the jaw, no tension on the face. Keep holding here for another 3, 2, and 1. Good job. Take the block out. Press into your feet, lift your hips up, and take your block now underneath your sacrum. Not your low back, not your bum, but the place right in between, that bone in between your, the triangle bone, your sacrum. So now we're here, the block is giving us the support for this bridge pose. You choose, I have it on the medium height, you can bring it to the lower height. I feel the highest height is a bit too high, so choose what works for you. And now feel your breath easily moving into your belly, into your chest, into your ribs. No tension in the shoulders, the jaw, or the legs. One more breath in. And one more exhale, taking your hands to hold the block, press into your feet, lift your hips just enough to take the block out. Now we're just gonna stay here and notice how your back feels against your mat. Direct your breath into that space. Walk your feet together, take your right knee to cross your left, and let both knees fall to the left. You can use your left hand on the outside of the right knee. Now here, you can take your block under your right knee, and that's gonna give it some support here. You choose what height feels best for you. Breathing into the right lung, the right ribs. Notice if you're tensing that left leg, let it relax down. Let the whole body feel completely supported without using muscular effort. And let's come back to neutral. Right foot comes down. Left knee crosses over the right. Square your hips. So sometimes when you do your twist, the hips will shift to one side. So make sure your hips are back in its neutral position. And let the knees fall over to the right. So I'm going to take the block and place it underneath the left knee. And if you need to, use the highest part, or the middle, or the lowest. And then let yourself relax. Let that right leg be really soft, and breathe into your left lung. Every time you exhale, let your legs get a little softer. Every time you inhale, let the lungs fill a little more, like you're stretching the body from inside out. A few breaths here to allow the body to take the shape without resistance. And with your next inhale, come back through neutral, taking your feet down into the mat. Equalize your hips. Now let's take the knees into the chest, hands to the knees, and bring your forehead up to meet the knees. Squeezing, squeezing, squeezing. And release into Shavasana. So Shavasana is corpse pose. And the beauty of the corpse pose is that it is meant to give us the opportunity to let go of what we don't want to carry any longer. This can be a physical tightness or something in the mind, maybe a thought pattern that repeats itself unnecessarily or not helping. So notice the thought pattern, notice the muscular patterns, and see if you can let go of what you don't need to carry today. Feel that you can breathe so easily through the body now. You've given your body a lot of attention, a lot of compassion, a lot of love that in your body. Continue to give yourself that permission to let go. Gently smile. Start to bring movement back into the body and bring your knees into your chest. Let's roll to the right and make our way back up to seated. If you need to, you sit on your block. And let's position that we started in. Take your hands to your knees and notice this difference of the body. Deep breath in, long breath out. Take your hands to your heart center, big smile. Thank you so much for sharing your positive energy with me virtually online. And if you come into contact with anybody today, I want you to share this positive energy. The more you share it, the more it comes back to you. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Thank you guys. Let me know what you thought of that. You guys are awesome. If you have any questions about the whole block thing, let me know. And then I'm also gonna just add more movements of using the block into the practice. So then that way it keeps us interested. Thanks guys, have a wonderful day. Love you. And share your positive energy with everyone today. We all need it. Thanks guys.